currently, the economic system that we're living under is inherently exploitative, it's inherently oppressive, and we're now actually feeling the devastating impact of that more than ever. We live in a country where there are 40 million Americans. We live in the wealthiest nation that has ever existed, the wealthiest nation on the planet, and we have 40 million Americans living in poverty. We have 18.5 million Americans living in extreme poverty, according to the latest UN reports. Climate change is happening no matter how hard people try to deny its existence, and its outcomes are devastating, especially for millennials, and this is something that we need to focus on. And unfortunately, every single time we tried to bring about any sort of socialized solutions to these problems that the free market obviously fails to provide solutions for, we get called socialist, and that idea is inherently damaging. We live under an inherently oppressive capitalist dogma, and I'm here to talk about that because I think that at least questioning that and striving to find a better system is exactly what young people should be doing right now.
Just because someone gets rich does not mean someone gets poor. In order for you to get rich in a free market system, you must have a good idea. You must create value. You must employ people. You probably borrowed money. And you have an 80% chance of that business not succeeding. In a free market, yes, we applaud success, but you must take responsibility for failure. And you have seen in the last 100 years the standard of living increase for all people across the world. Things get better, prices go down, and we are able to enjoy the abundance that only a free market system can create. And you know what? I don't have to call you guys socialists. Bernie Sanders calls himself a socialist, and we should reject socialism.
Yeah. It's very nice of you to immediately launch this accusation that I don't care for small businesses, or small businesses will never exist under a social democracy, kind of similar to small businesses in Nordic countries and with robust economies, but with also a powerful and protective social welfare programs and socialized safety nets. This exists everywhere around the world. All of the comparable Western democratic nations have been able to institute socialist principles, and that's precisely why their people are a lot happier. But then on top of that, what's really important to me is focusing on the rate of growth and the GDP is great, but you can't answer this one simple question. Who cares what our GDP is if the person who is dying of abject poverty can't heal himself because we don't have a socialized medicine, for example?
So if you want to talk about healthcare solutions, happy to talk about it. You brought up Norway, Sweden, Finland. You would call those socialist countries?
No, I wouldn't call them socialist countries,
okay,
but they're definitely on a scale. Yeah, I said they're social democracies, which would be a more socialist country. Okay, look, if we're going to have this conversation, let's frame it.
I asked a very simple question.
No, we'll have a consensus on this first. Let me ask you a question, okay? Because this is really improper framing, and a lot of people confuse socialism.
You said inherently exploitative. You framed the argument.
With capitalism, yeah, I did.
Okay, so that's and I rebutted that. So
how did you rebut that?
By talking about just because
by talking about small businesses. It doesn't matter. Every single business
Hasan, let me say one thing. Norway, Sweden, and Finland, according to the World Economic Freedom Index, are ranked higher than the United States of America. That is not socialist. They have less tax. They have lower taxes.
So that means that you can have socialism and yet still have successful businesses in your country. Thank you for proving my point for me.
No,
I love this.
It's the exact opposite. You know what socialist is? Bernie Sanders wants an 80% tax rate on the rich.
Venezuela too, right? Dude, listen.
Bernie Sanders wants to keep our fossil fuel assets in the road.
You want me to explain it to you? Because you obviously don't understand it. Do you want me to explain it to you?
Is Cuba not socialist? Is North Korea not socialist? Was Vietnam not socialist? Was Zimbabwe not socialist? You can laugh all you want, Hasan, but 100 million people died under socialism the last 100 years, and you have the gumption to continue. You can keep laughing to the victims' families from Cuba, from Venezuela, from Korea, from Vietnam, from Mao's China, from Stalin's Russia. The number one killer of citizens, from innocent civilians the last 100 years, has been the very idea that you shamelessly wear on your sleeve every single day. Marxism has killed more people than any other ideology over the last 100 years.
100 million people die under a communist dictatorship, and some of those millions are also Nazis, which is included there, whatever. You blame communism.
The National Socialist Workers' Party.
Or you blame socialism. But when 7 million people die every year under our current global capitalist environment, where just by famine alone, before we even talk about imperialism and before we even talk about the damaging wars that are happening all around the world, then it's the individual. So you're essentially telling every single person that's poor, it's your fault that you're poor, it's your fault that you die under a capitalist system, but if you were under a communist system...
I have never said that.
I mean, that's literally what you're saying.
No, it's not.
So whose fault is it? Whose fault is it that 7 million people every year die just by famine-related diseases and famine under our current global capitalist structure?
Whose individual fault is it?
Yeah. Why is it with the system when it comes to communism, but it's actually
go from 40 years to 80 years in America for women and 76 years for women.
You're not answering my question.
Global poverty is at its all-time low than it ever has been. It's dropped below 10%.
You're not answering my question. You're not answering. You're talking about something
There is not a
completely
singular
different.
person why individuals might die, unfortunately. However, what's going to stop that?
It's unfortunate when they die.
Well, yes, Hassan. Death is unfortunate.
Yeah,
Correct.
I know. I understand. But you
how
make
do you
it seem as
solve
though
these
they are
problems?
just a statistic.
How do you solve that? So let's talk about healthcare in particular.
Okay.
Because a common critique of conservatives is that we do not have a plan for healthcare. It's quite simple. First of all, the idea that we do not have socialized medicine or a test case for it in the States is incorrect. The Veterans Administration.
Did you see the veterans? Oh, God.
$180 billion a year
how disgusting.
we spend trying to help our veterans. Hassan, let me finish. $180 billion a year we spend trying to help our veterans, and they wait in line, they die in the clinics, the quality care is unbelievably low. You cannot say that the Veterans Administration is a well-run government agency despite us spending $180 billion a year trying to help our vets.
How disgusting.
What's
that
disgusting?
You would send these young men and women overseas to go fight not you. I'm talking about conservatives in general. Just conservatives in general don't mind sending these young men and women overseas to fight imperialist conquests that have nothing to do with protecting America or protecting American sovereignty. Hold on. That's great. That's great. That's just one war, though. We're waging many currently. But then they come back, and the numbers have obviously increased. The number of casualties have increased. The treatment is drastically different than a regular pool of American citizens who aren't in the line of fire. How could you then turn around, not fund that system that we promised those veterans we would take care of them, not fund that system, and then use it as a talking point to say socialized medicine does not work? That is disgusting.
We should take care of our vets. You know what's disgusting, Hassan? The fact that you defend that system. The fact that vets die waiting for care. Our vets are our heroes. First of all, I'm against the Afghanistan war, against the Iraq war, against our funding of Saudi Arabia's illegal war in Yemen. I'm against the missile strikes in Syria. So don't try to paint me in the same blend and the same brush that all neoconservatives are. Second of all, ironically, Donald Trump is making the world a safer place. The Korean War is ending thanks to Donald Trump. ISIS is on the run and being destroyed.
What does this have to do with us lying to our veterans that we were going to take care of them and then letting them be homeless on the streets,
which is socialized medicine, the Veterans Administration, which is socialized medicine, does a disservice. You advocate for socialized medicine. I do not want the rest of the country.
I'm not saying the VA is good. I'm saying that it's underfunded.
That our veterans have to.
You're using that as a tool to just attack socialism, attack socialized medicine.
It's called evidence.
This works in every other country that has tried to do this. This works. The system absolutely works.
How does the Cuban healthcare system work?
The Cuban healthcare system. The Cuban healthcare system? Oh, you mean the country where they're on the verge of solving AIDS and a multitude of different cancer research? Like, what are you talking about?
Where their life expectancy is 15 years less than the United States, where they have widespread starvation, where they lock up political dissidents. Why do people flee Havana, Cuba for Miami, Florida?
I don't know. Maybe our sanctions have something to do with it. The kind of deregulation that already caused the 2008 housing market crash.
I'm not going to get into
you're not going to get into the
Freddie rating agencies,
I know what the fuck
Federal Reserve lowering interest rates. Hold on. What's Fannie and Freddie, genius? What's Fannie and Freddie? Tell me what that is. Tell me about the rating agencies. Tell me about how we should have allowed Wells Fargo to pay a price, and those people should be in prison right now for doing what they did.
I agree.
And lying to federal regulators.
Charlie sounds like a communist
a Democrat Congress and a Democrat Senate
advocating
and a Democrat president.
Advocating to jail bankers?
Hassan,
I'm on board, dog.
Hassan,
Let's do it right now.
Talking over each other for the next 45 minutes, or you can let me finish. The final thing I'll say on banking regulation, one of the biggest misrepresentations of reality is somehow that free market capitalism contributed to the 2008 financial crisis. It was the rating agencies in bed with Fannie and Freddie Mac doing AAA bond rating with B and B minus rated bonds. No one looked what they were actually rating. It was the government institutions that were telling Wall Street to continue to go after subprime mortgage lending, where they did credit default swaps on top of it, leveraging the entire American economy with Alan Greenspan artificially lowering interest rates after 9/11, playing with cheap money. Pair that with the Community Reinvestment Act, and no one actually knowing what they're trading.
I don't like liberals
all
either, dog.
certified
We're on the same page.
by Washington.
We're on the same page, but you sound a lot like a communist when you make those points. I'm just going to let you know. When you're like, let's jail bankers, let's regulate both our politicians and also these corporations. You can't just sit here and say that it's deregulation.
Hasan,
you keep mentioning the failures of capitalism, and then your solution to the failures of capitalism is more capitalism, more free market.
Failure of statism. Well, you know how about the failure? How about the successes of free market capitalism? The fact that we have abundance in light, air conditioning. The fact that we have more food that we throw away every single year than we actually eat. The fact that in the Western world...
You think that's a good thing? You think that our waste is a good thing, dude?
We have an abundance problem in the West, not a scarcity problem.
Yeah.
In Venezuela, the average Venezuelan has lost 17 pounds. Oh, yes? 4,000% inflation. Yes. Brink on the Civil War.
Venezuela,
yes.
the only socialist country on the planet, everybody.
Yes. The fact they have 42% unemployment. Yes. The fact that Maduro continues to exploit his citizens around the lies of Karl Marx. Yes. Is that what we're talking about, Hasan?
Yes. I love that you think you owned... Oh, my God. So ridiculous, dude. At this point, you guys all have to be aware that this is a ridiculous notion, right? There are plenty of socialized countries around the planet. It's not just Venezuela. And also, let me tell you another thing, okay? When Nordic countries want to implement social democracies or socially democratic principles, it doesn't matter because the United States can't impose sanctions on them, and the United States can't go and bomb them. The United States can't implement coups in their countries. And look at that. It freaking works, dude. It works. Maybe we should stop meddling in foreign affairs all around the world and allow these countries to do whatever they want. Because you can virtue signal as much as you want.
I generally agree with a non-interventionalist.
You can talk about virtue signaling. Here's what's virtue signaling. Acting like you care about Venezuela. Acting like you care about the interest of Venezuela.
I do care about Venezuela.
Yeah, if you did, you wouldn't be in support of an administration that is trying to put sanctions on Venezuela, a country that is already crippled. Like, it's a corrupt government. I'm sure there's an authoritarian element to it. I'm not the biggest fan of Maduro either. But you can't sit here and be like, oh, Venezuela, just to talk about socialism when your fellow men and women, your fellow brothers and sisters are dying in this country, and you want to stop socialized medicine from happening here. All right.
So you're drawing a connection with empathy and with my policy prescription to help people. And I would say
because the free market principles have never worked in socialized medicine. Obviously, that's the reason why we're here. Like, that's the reason why. That's the reason why it's 4 times.
Can you explain to me though that why people did everything they could to flee East Germany, to go to West Germany, people flee Havana, Cuba for Miami, Florida, or they flee Venezuela for a free market system.
Why are they coming to America? Every immigrant's like, I'm coming to America for the free market system. Maybe the ones that you found. Like, what are you
they're
talking
also
about?
fleeing.
They're leaving violence
the communist dictatorships.
They're leaving violence that we largely were responsible for, like the Honduran caravan, for example.
Let me ask you a question.
Who is implementing coups in these countries, Charlie? Who is funding right-wing paramilitary groups just because they're capitalist and they love the free market?
So tell me, since that's your general thesis, that the reason communism and socialism hasn't worked because of U.S. intervention, what U.S. intervention in Zimbabwe, or what U.S. intervention... So the distinction between South Korea...
It's not the only reason. I'm not a dummy. I don't think there's a singular reason for an entire country to absolutely fail. Like, it's ridiculous
let me ask
to
you a question,
assume that it's because
South Korea
you're the only one who's saying
today
that.
because of U.S. intervention. North Korea lives in darkness.
It's not just because of U.S. intervention, Charlie. There are a multitude of reasons, obviously.
The fact that socialism is evil, it doesn't work, it has proper incentives.
All of your reasons are just socialism is bad. Like, you're literally like, no, it's socialism.
Well, no, and also that free market capitalism is the most proven, moral, and effective economic system ever discovered.
Dude, that's
lifted more people out of poverty. That Western civilization is one of the greatest experiments in human history. The life expectancy has gone nearly double in the last 100 years.
You do realize
that
you keep
global
repeating
poverty
your same talking points, right? Like, I understand that technological advancements are inevitable.
Repetition is the soul of memory, and I hope you can remember some of this stuff so you can stop being a Marxist.
Yes. Come up to me and tell me. People always come up to me and tell me, hey, Hasan, why do you want to take away my earnings? And I told him, I'm not trying to take away your earnings. I'm trying to make sure your bosses give back what is rightfully yours. These are your earnings. You worked for them, okay? And it is very obvious that corporations are not magnanimously going to, anytime soon, give you back those wages. So we have to implement regulation. We have to implement certain policies. This could be UBI. I don't really like it that much, but this could potentially be taxes on the wealthy and corporations. Like, there are many different ways to do it. Or this could be regulating the wages in some way, or allowing unions to exist in countries. I can't believe you're booing this, man.
Here's the big philosophical difference and problem, is that Hasan says, well, I don't want to take your worker earnings away. I want to go after your employer, essentially to make sure. I don't have the right to tell anybody what to do with any of their money. That's the big difference, Hasan, is that you're trying to
It's their money, Charlie. It's the workers' money. They are just taking away and accumulating the profits for themselves. I'm not, and by the way, I'm not even saying abolish all profits.
This is a distinctly Marxist argument, by the way.
Just because it's Marxist doesn't mean it's a bad idea. Stop being an idiot, dude. God damn it. Like.
Oh, okay, so I'm so glad you mentioned that. So.
It's so silly, like as if we implement socialized medicine, we're going to eat rats like Venezuela.
I didn't say it was bad. I said it was Marxist, and now I'm going to tell you why it's bad.
Oh, okay.
The problem with the Marxist argument is the incentive structure. In a free market system, incentives, everybody is incentive to create value, get a job, or take a risk and employ people. Under a Marxist socialist system, you're incentivized to either run for political office, get as much power as you possibly can, to try to extract money away from people that don't have it.
What about cooperatives? Like, I don't understand. There's multiple different ways to do this.
And do that voluntarily. Go do what the Amish do. Go live in northern New York. In America, we have people that live in cooperatives today. Don't tell me how to live my life. You can live your life however you want to.
It's just, look,
the big difference and distinction is that it's impossible to live as a capitalist in a socialist country. You can live as a socialist in a capitalist country.
It's impossible to have capitalism without socialism. You could never.
How's that?
You could never implement capitalism without public roads, without the infrastructure necessary to bring private industry. What the hell are you talking about? You can live in a socialist country. It won't be great. If it's a fully socialist country, I don't think we've been able to figure that out yet. So I'm not even saying that a fully socialist country will be great. But you have never, ever lived in a fully capitalist country.
You pay tolls? You pay tolls?
So that's it? That's
a user fee. That's not socialism. That's if you use the highway, you pay for the highway.
Highways are
you pay
not
a gas tax.
Okay,
you pay a gas tax. So if you drive a car, you pay into the highway fund.
Yeah, you're right.
That's how it works, Hasan.
You're right. Socialism is just what you want it to be, and not what it actually is. You're right. Never mind.
A program that will not benefit you to send the money to someone else that is in a different socioeconomic circumstance. Free market capitalism is the greatest wealth-creating engine in human history. It's lifted more people out of poverty, and you are a beneficiary of the very system that you are bashing right now.
No, because it's not free market capitalism. It's so stupid. When the last time we had free market capitalism or something close to it was leading up to the Great Depression, okay? There's no such thing as, like, we have a fully free market. Where is the fully free market? If you like a decentralized government, why don't you go live in Somalia? There's decentralized government there, all you want.
Well, so we are more capitalist than we are socialist right now. And everywhere the free market...
Oh, so you admit that capitalism and socialism coexist.
So we have
Thank you for proving my earlier point, even though you were like,
yes,
Marxism.
we have some we have broken public schools, which you would attribute to socialist policies. We spend money that we don't have.
That we need to spend
Government
more
is far
on
too big, far too powerful, far too controlling over our lives.
Dude,
we have a $4.4 trillion budget every single year.
It's an idea. It's an ideology.
We have 3 million people that work for the federal government. All of these are pseudo-socialist ideas, of which I categorically disagree with.
So you want to privatize the school system entirely?
Okay, localize the school system.
Answer my question.
Eliminate the Department of Education. Send the money back to the states.
Do you want to privatize the school system?
Right, one at a time.
By the way, what does Foster Friess think about all that? I would like to know his perspective, because obviously his perspective is more important.
Just so you don't know, he's trying to attack my investors and donors, of which I'm happy to talk about. We have 35,000 donors spanned in all 50 states. We now have a $15 million budget, and we are supported by some of the most successful people in the American business community.
He means wealthy billionaires who have stolen your money and
created
your
wealth
wages.
for everyone. Oh, really? So when we get investments from people that, for example, helped create the modern internet as we know it,
we have socialism,
like affirmative action policies.
We only have socialism for the wealthy, and we have some socialism for the very poor.
Okay.
What we need to do is bring that back and have socialism for everyone. For example, Medicare for all would be a good place to start.
Okay. So
There's no answer you can give me to
Hasan.
what will happen when automation wipes out the labor force with artificial intelligence. Socialism, whether you like it or not, some variation of that already exists in our country, but some variation of that will make you deeply uncomfortable will inevitably happen. So it's really silly. You can yell about the free market and how great it is, and also the free market's great because my dad is wealthy is not an argument that you can make anymore, okay? There are people that are suffering in this country.
So Hasan, why don't you give 95% of your money away and go live on a commune?
Do you really think that that's how it works? Do you really think
Why
that's
not?
how it works?
Go live what you preach. Because every single
this is as silly.
You talked uninterrupted for 5 minutes. Hasan, let me finish.
Go ahead. Sorry, you're right.
I live what I practice. I'm a free market capitalist. I employ people. I took a risk. I have my own startup business. Every single day, I practice what I preach. He wants other people to contribute to what he considers to be a good idea, what he considers will make the world a better place. You have the freedom to go live as a socialist. Go do it, Hasan. What's stopping you?
Okay.
All right.
So here's why this is ridiculous.
This is
if I gave away the measly earnings that I had and gave away 95% of that,
how much do you make,
that
Hasan?
wouldn't necessarily even push the needle. I will be very honest. It's really embarrassing, especially because my boss is sitting right there. I make $60,000 a year, okay? And that's a really good salary, but it's not like what Ted Cruz's wife was talking about the other day when she said $174,000 salary a year. It's not like we're going to buy a second home anytime soon, but that's besides the point, okay? You're trying to attack me, which is ridiculous, like asking me what my salary is. Sure, I'll reveal it willingly.
You brought it up in context. I'm asking, why don't you live like a socialist?
Okay.
Go live like a socialist.
The point is larger than that, Charlie.
I live like a capitalist every single day, Cenk.
guys.
I live as a capitalist, okay? I live what I believe.
No.
What do I do? I get charity every single year.
Hold on.
What's my salary?
Charlie.
Less than his.
Charlie, take a
Come on,
seat.
Cenk, let's go.
Charlie,
What are you doing? Sit down.
Take a seat. Take a seat.
Psycho?
All right, no. Take a seat. You're going to take a seat. You're going to take a seat over here.
Oh, my God.
What's my salary?
All right.
Ridiculous. All right, behave, everyone. Jesus Christ.
Okay.
I practice what I preach, Cenk.
Charlie.
You
Stop.
do not practice what you preach.
Charlie.
All right, hold on. Last point.
You don't want to give him the attention here.
Everyone,
35,000 donors across the country, my friend Cenk. We are funded by the grassroots of this country. You can try to demagogue it all you want.
Okay. Can I finish my point?
All right.
Less than Hasan, so you can check it yourself.
Hold on.
Charlie.
Let me finish my point.
All right.
Right? We're having a reasonable discussion, right? We're here, we're talking to one another. Let's stop screaming at one another, including those of the Young Turks who obviously don't pay me enough.